Welcome to Women Express. I'm your host, Denise Harrington.
Mia Harrington here.
Your co-host. And we have a really unique and special conversation today. I'm excited that we're all going to be together on this one because the challenges of motherhood, I don't think, have ever been addressed in the way that Dr. Lowy is addressing them in her new book. I'm going to let her introduce herself, tell you about her book, and then we're just going to jump into it because in our pre-conversation with her, I think we actually went over the time we had allotted because it was such an interesting conversation. There's a lot going on in our world right now, but I think some of the things that motherhood brings to the table are worth looking at, the goods, the bads, and the wonderfuls all together. So without much more to say from me, Dr. Lowy, welcome to Women Express.
Thanks so much, Denise, and thanks, Nia. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And I'll tell you a little bit about my work and about myself. I went into this area around 15 years ago, into the area of maternal ambivalence. It's quite interesting because my daughter was studying for her final exams. So I thought, I need to be around for this. So I decided that I would do a PhD. I'm a psychotherapist and I did a master's on infertility. So I'm very interested in women's issues. But what I wanted to do is the mothering area is quite saturated, as we all know. I wanted to find a different area that hadn't really been explored. So I went into an area that's taboo. And it's kind of, when I look back on my work, it's quite interesting because the area of infertility was also quite taboo then when I wrote about that. That was like in the late 80s, 90s. And now I'm working on this area of maternal ambivalence. And what it is, in a nutshell, my purpose is to normalize all our feelings about mothering. And what my idea is that we as mothers have many, many different feelings about our mothering.
That's true.
And I believe that more than one truth, maybe 2 or 3 or 4, exist at one time.
Yeah.
And when we think about mothering, we can think about experiences of being sad and happy, resentful and not resentful. I mean, and loving moments and not so loving moments. And my book, which is called, you can see it in the back, The Loving Moments and Bitter Truths of Mothering, this is really what it comes to, that there's many different moments of mothering. And I believe that we really need to embrace all of them. And as mothers, we are actually inclined to not really process or not really think about the dark moments, the difficult moments. We kind of put them aside. And what I believe is that these moments are valuable. They transform our mothering, and we need to include them in our mothering, think about them, and in a sense, they melt us. So it's really fascinating that in this conversation, we've got another level because we've got a mother and a daughter, Denise and Nia, and I really like that for our conversation.
So I love it too because we came up with quite a few things that really helped to bring it all together because, of course, Nia's not a mother yet. Her desire is to be a mother.
Right.
And then some of the stories of getting there and the fact that you have an experience in infertility too, where there's so much disappointment when you're not becoming a mother. Nowadays, a lot of women are waiting later to have their children. So that's either.
And I wouldn't say waiting. I don't know if we're waiting. It's just that the circumstances that we expected for our lives aren't happening at the time we expected. So.
And some are waiting. Some are choosing a career. And so it's there's so many choices, but I love one thing that you did say, and then I'll share a story, but I did love that you said that there are 2 or 3 ways of approaching motherhood. And I just love that. Well, tell me a
Yes.
little bit more about
Look,
that.
there's ambivalence is a term that's actually misunderstood. A lot of people see ambivalence as indifference, which is the absolute opposite, because indifference is cutting off and not caring. But it's misrepresented, and some people see ambivalence as not really having like blended feelings or a mixture. It's really not that. Ambivalence is the ability to um, not be binary, to remember the word
Mm-hmm.
and. It's like happiness and sadness, resentment and contentment. It's remembering that it's an and in this world there's a lot of binaries. A lot of people think of things in the notions of that it's joyful or sad, or difficult or easy. And life isn't like that. Life is full of many ands. And this is why I love the term ambivalence, because it's actually used, of course, in my notion with maternal ambivalence, but in all interactions or in all conversations or in everything, there's always the capacity to think about the
Right,
ands.
right.
I love
And
that.
when there's an or, there's almost a judgment
Yeah.
involved there, I believe, because it's rigid. Whereas what I'm talking about is
Yeah.
flow, is being inclusive. That's really what ambivalence is, the ability to flow and
Wow.
to be inclusive. And that's something that us mothers really
Yeah. Yeah.
need,
And
to be able
I
to
see what
flow
you're
with it.
saying too, is a lot of
Wow.
times people even take the word ambivalence as it's a negative. They want you to pick one side or the other. They
Yes,
don't ride the fence. What are
exactly.
you? Are you grateful or do you regret it? Like, which one do you like? So I see ambivalence, even
Right.
it just ties it. That's a perfect word to tie into this theme.
And
Yes.
I
It's
love the word flow and
yes.
inclusive. I mean, who would have ever thought that that would be a part of the ambivalence conversation,
Yes. Yeah.
especially around motherhood? And
Yes.
there's
Yes.
so much about motherhood that brings to the table the ability to flow. There's so much
Yes.
about life and the
Yeah.
Yeah.
ability
That,
to
that's
flow.
Yeah.
exactly right. That's exactly right. And in mothering, there's an extra level, because there's a lot of things about mothering. There's a lot of ideals
Hmm.
around mothering. We're meant to, as mothers, we're meant to be always there, always available, selfless. And that's what's promoted in
Hmm.
the world. And what I'm trying to do is to take that down many levels and to normalize what mothering is, and to say mothering is, yeah, we make mistakes, but the point about mothering is you make mistakes and you try and fix them. And that's what it is. Mothering is an experience of mistakes, repair, mistakes, repair. But that's how we learn. We can't learn any other way, because we're not given a
Right.
book for this. We're just given a baby, and we're figuring it out on the way, and we're figuring it out with our
So what
child.
do you mean that
And
what
the
to
other
expect when expecting doesn't have all the answers?
No, I don't think I don't think it has all of the answers, no. And every mothering experience with every child is
Hmm.
different, because it depends on where you are at the time. It depends on the where your life, where you might be in a
Hmm.
relationship, where you might, if it's your first child, your
Right.
second, your age. There's so many variations. And when I think about my own experience of mothering each child, totally different, and each interaction is different. So there's so many stories of mothering that are so vital for our conversation. And we need to own these and claim these. And we all actually have I suppose, an obligation to think about our mothering and to include it in our
Hmm.
conversations and with conversations with other mothers, and really to be
Yeah.
compassionate to ourselves and to other mothers. And that's where this flow comes in. Not to be rigid, but to really embrace the experience and not to be hard on ourselves. And that's one of the most difficult things for us as mothers, not to be hard on ourselves.
Not to be hard on ourselves because we have some kind of perfect picture of what
we do.
motherhood looks like, and that doesn't work. I love the word "and."
Right.
Yes, it's just so vital. And the other thing is today, I think it's particularly difficult because with social media, you have mothers there and they're kind of put in a wonderful frame that they're this or they get to school all coiffed and all dressed. It's not true. And then it's really it's not. And then you also often get the other picture of mothers being very distressed, very despairing. And it's actually all this. It's all these are valuable and they're all part of mothering. And we really need to embrace all of this, all of this.
It's
mothering.
So interesting because that is such a big trend on social media right now. The mommy vloggers that show this is their day in the life. And quite frankly, a lot of the influencers that I've followed started off not as mothers, and over the past even maybe 4 years are now moms, and at this point have 2 or 3 kids. So I see the whole spectrum of what their life was before and what their life is after and everything in between. It's been really interesting for me to watch, but it's not just the influencers that I'm seeing. It's really people my age. This is what they're going through. So it's my friends that are having babies and sharing their experiences. It's those influencers that maybe used to be fitness influencers, now are mothers, and they're still doing both, or they just went from lifestyle vloggers to mom vloggers. So it is interesting to see the full spectrum. And I've seen everything. I mean, one person in particular, she runs a pretty big brand and she has a nanny. And so many people are mad at her for getting up in the morning and going to the gym and working out. And how do you do that? Or how dare you post that you do that? Because I can't afford a nanny. So why would you put that in our faces? So it's just really interesting to see. Or another influencer, she doesn't want to share anything about, she doesn't allow her kids to watch TV, and she doesn't want to talk about why that's her choice. She eats certain foods and she doesn't want to share that part of what they eat. People ask, which I think is so invasive. They ask her on those Ask Me Anythings if her kids are vaccinated. And she's like, that's really none of your business. So it's so interesting how mothering stories are so accessible at this point, and we do have the range of it. But like you're saying, there is a through theme of like, it should be this way and it shouldn't be that way, when it's great that they're sharing, but why are we getting mad at them for the whole range of what they're doing?
Yes.
Well, it's interesting, I think, that Nia and Margo, you can jump in. It's good for me to call Margo, right?
Yeah, sure.
I think that this might be a great place for you to have a conversation around what Nia just said. This is a place, though, where "and" is real important.
Right. And right? I think what's interesting is what you were talking about is something that's intrusive for mothers. How intrusive can we be? And I think it's really interesting because mothering's always like fair game. Everyone's got a comment about mothering. Everyone's got a comment about how you mother, whether you should be doing a certain thing. And I'm very against this word should, because when the word should is used, bells go off straight away for me, because that's judgment. And then I think about, people say, not so much these days, but in the olden days, it was like, when you get married, when are you going to have a baby? And then when you have a baby, when's the next one? And what are you doing? And people think it's okay to ask those questions. And I find that fascinating. And I do applaud those people that put up their boundaries and say, I'll talk about this and I'm not going to talk about this. But it's the "and" that's because the "and" makes it powerful. Yeah. Because you're able to stand up for yourself, to say, I'll talk about this and I won't talk about that. And it's like it's a very freeing concept.
Or I hear what you're saying, and this is the way
And
I'm doing it.
that's
And it's
right. Exactly.
okay. That
It's
life is
okay. And
really okay.
that's right. And I think this is the other thing. It's that sense of it's okay. And I think as mothers, sometimes we don't feel okay, or we don't, as I talk about in my book, we don't feel
Mhm.
enough. And what does this mean about this enough? And how do we feel enough?
Well, that's
And
normal for
is
a
it,
woman in general. I mean, we
yes,
kind of take some of our phobias right into motherhood and then add on top of that hormones, which create some out of sync
yes,
emotions, and you have all this brewing around in your life, and it doesn't stop the day the baby's born.
Right.
no,
That's
not
an
at
important
all. It's,
feature. It
yeah,
doesn't stop the day.
no,
And some of the stuff is that you're brand new to this experience. Now, I'm not the doctor, you are, but you're brand new at this experience. And oh my goodness, here comes all of the stuff at you that you think you're
yes,
supposed to do. I
right.
remember, I have to tell this story because it's such a great story, and Mia's here and she's heard it and you've heard it as well. But I remember probably 4 days into having Mia. She had just been born, and it was beautiful September in Oregon, Portland, Oregon, which can be absolutely gorgeous. And I was loving it, and life felt so good. And here was this precious being that I had, and look how beautiful she is, and all of that. Well, the next day, there was a night in between, let's put it that way. So the next morning, I woke up, and my first thought was, I could just throw her out the window and no one would know. I could
Yeah,
just
yeah,
I could just throw her out the
yes,
window
yeah,
because I had no sleep that night. It was constant. She wasn't a kind of a baby that cried a lot, but she needed what she needed when she needed it. And
yes,
I
yes,
just was just too through. I wanted my old
yes,
life back.
yes,
Where's my 8 hours? I want my eight
right,
hours back.
right.
you know.
And
And I
I
remember
think,
going to my doctor for my checkup later on in that week and being so embarrassed that I had had that thought, especially
I,
juxtaposition against the beautiful, wonderful day before, and then waking up that morning going, okay, just put her in a bag, throw her out the window, life will be good
right,
again. And
yeah, yeah.
my
And
doctor said to me,
what I like about all this is you're touching on the taboo areas that
yeah,
most of us can't talk about. And I think that is such a wonderful thing, because just because you had those thoughts, it doesn't mean you were going to act
mhm,
on them. And there is a lot of taboo. And I think the other part of it is that we don't really understand before we have a child what it actually is.
yeah,
And
we
that
don't.
there is very difficult times, there's wonderful times, and there's difficult times, and they can switch in a second. And we're not really taught that or told that. So that's what I want to do in my
Mhm,
work. And the other thing that you kind of hit on, but not really, is the loneliness of mothering. And even though you can have many people around you, it's actually, it can be very lonely. And that can be one of the most difficult things about it. I mean, having that feeling that you want to throw your baby out the window is such a lonely, guilty feeling. But being able to say it and hear it from another mother, that's just wonderful. And that allows you to be able to get on with your life.
at
And
least I'm
so
not
much of
crazy.
it,
You think, oh, at least
yeah,
I'm not crazy. And I was really
no,
lucky because I
yes,
had a doctor who was very much in alignment with, flow of things. I like the way you put
yes,
that. And the
yeah,
moment I told her that, she said, welcome to motherhood.
Mhm.
that's right. She
And that was
normalized
it.
it. That's right. And
Yeah.
then that sets you on a path to, it's all okay. I'm gonna get through this somehow. There's gonna be difficult parts, there's gonna be wonderful parts. And I like to call the wonderful parts the melting moments. It's those
Yeah.
moments when you've got a newborn, when you look at that newborn and you just understand what life's about. You're in tune. But it doesn't always happen like that. But then
Mm-mm.
there's often times in your life that your child melts you when they've done something wrong, and then you get that smile or you get that hug. It's wonderful. It doesn't happen all the time, but when it does happen, it kind of heals you, and it gives you the strength to go on.
Yeah,
And
I
so what
agree.
I'm saying is we need all those moments, and that's what mothering is. And if one gets the message that mothering is only wonderful, you're on the wrong track, because it's life. It's not all wonderful. And we do talk more about those happy, fantastic moments. But
I love
there,
that you take those moments, and I love this idea. I wrote it down twice in my notes. I love this idea of melting moments. I love
yeah,
that. Just the visualization of this thing melted me. It could be the happy thing, or it could be the difficult thing that
yes,
melted you.
that's
And you
right.
went on to say that those kinds of moments are how you repair, grow,
Yes,
and learn.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love that.
yeah. That's
Because
really,
who would have thought that you're the one growing during this
yeah.
process?
Well,
Oh, looking
that's
at the kid, and now they
that's
walk, and da, da, da. Well,
yes,
what's
that's right.
happening to me? I'm still a person.
That's right. And I think that we learn with each child so much. Our child is there to teach us. And I think, that no, we aren't there to teach our child. Okay, we do, but it's a process with both. It's both. And again, it goes back to my message about and. There's nothing or about mothering. There isn't. And this is my message. It's everything. It's all the moments together. And that's really what ambivalence is. It's like beware of all, beware of anything binary, because that's when we get ourselves into trouble. And I think the other thing is that you kind of alluded to is how important other mothers can be in our mothering. If we've got other mothers around us that give us energy, that are compassionate towards us and themselves, that don't have to be perfect, that go with the flow. These are the people that you want to surround yourself with,
Yeah.
as well as, of course, a partner or someone else that can really support you and that can understand a little bit of what you're going through. And all this doesn't stop with when you have a baby or a toddler. It goes through one's whole life, and it's like we're always adjusting, readjusting to our children. And that's what a mother is. We have to go through the process of separating from the beginning. And I think last time we talked about the first separation that I think that a mother feels. It's actually when one has one's child and the child goes to sleep for the first time. And then, of course, that babies sleep, but then you kind of realize that they're separating away from you. And you're kind of thinking, wow. I mean, I read
Yeah.
about that, and it was kind of a real wow moment for me. And then I realized that mothering is a process of separating all the time, and the mother negotiating this. Like your baby, you've got a toddler and it starts walking, and he or she is walking away from you and finding some freedom away, and you have to check yourself, and you've got to give them the
Yeah.
space. And this goes on, of course, throughout our mothering. When we drop our child off at preschool and we think, like, we're anguished most of the time, happy and anguished, then the child will be okay. It mightn't be okay the first day, but the child gets used to it. And then when the child is your teenager and the child goes out at night and you're up all night worrying, and then
Worrying,
when they have their own relationships, and then
worrying.
you're worrying, and then when they have their adult relationships, and then you also once again have to see it's actually not about us as mothers. We've got to stand back and watch, and they will make their mistakes and they'll repair them, and that's what it is. And I think if the mother herself is able to embrace making mistakes and repairing them, then the child can see that. And the adult. And I think for me, watching my adult children, have their relationships, have their partnerships, and have their own children, it's wonderful and it's joyous to watch them, and not to realize that this is actually not my turn anymore, and it's their turn, and it's
There's
wonderful.
one place that I want
And
to
it's got all,
revisit. I think there's two places I really want to visit, because I think your example and kind of role play of the playground moment, I really want to walk through that. But before getting to that, let's revisit the breaking the taboo and the guilt around it all. So you talked about creating a space where we do break the taboo, which really evolves around having conversations. So how do we talk more about the resentment and these and emotions, not or emotions, but what would you suggest to somebody who does have these feelings of guilt of how they were as a mother in the past or how they are as a mother currently, and maybe the circle that they have or their partner, even if they have other mothers that are understanding, maybe they feel stuck, like nobody understands them. How do we have those conversations to really break through those moments?
Okay. I think it's really difficult. And I mean, I might be generalizing, but I believe that all mothers have guilt about certain parts of their mothering, things that they didn't like that they did. But what I I want to make a differentiation between guilt and shame here because I think it's really valuable. Okay, guilt is when we did something that we don't really like. We lost our temper. We weren't as understanding as we maybe could have been, but we kind of are able to think it through now and kind of let it go. We let it go, but sometimes it comes back to revisit us throughout our lives. And I think that's guilt, and that's normal for all mothers. Shame is when it's attached to you. That negative feeling is part of you and you can't flow with it. You can't see it as part and parcel of mothering, and it attaches to you. And in the book I tell the story of a mother and daughter who are at the park with the there's let me call it the grandmother, the mother, and the child. And the mother and the grandmother are very joined together. The grandmother is always around and she's kind of trying to tell the daughter how to mother her child. And the daughter is full of guilt and she's actually full of shame. But after a while, she kind of realizes something's not working for her because she's really feeling not good at all anytime. And she thinks about it. And then one day at the park, her mother, she's swinging the little girl, her daughter, on the swing. And then the mother starts, "You're swinging her too high. She's going to fall off. She's going to hurt herself." And then somehow the mother gets the strength within her and she says, "Mum, I really need to talk to you about this. You've been a great mum to me, but it's my turn now. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to learn from them. It's actually your job to enjoy your grandchild, to have fun. It's my job to look after her." And that is when she was able then to transform the guilt, the shame that she felt, like always feeling bad about herself, into guilt. Okay, things might go wrong, but I'll be okay. And that's a sense of forgiving herself. So I think we always have guilt with our mothering, but we need to be able to notice the shame and let go of that because that doesn't help. And then what happens is the child also finds out that she does the same because our children model us.
Right. Carrying those emotions on. As children really do take on, they can see things. And I was reading a book today that I think put it really well, that children, they aren't old enough to know that they can speak on something or even know how to speak on it. So they witness these things happening and they aren't aware that they don't know how to speak on what is happening or have an awareness of what is happening.
And what I would say about that is if the mum has an awareness and she can speak herself and talk about her own feelings and her own misgivings, of course, in an age appropriate way for her child, then that's very, very, very healing.
Yeah.
I mean, in my book, I also have I talk about an incident of a morning when everything seems to be flowing for this mum with her three children. She's got 2 school-age children and a baby, and she's getting them all ready for school, and everything's going to plan, and she's got a Zoom work session organized in her mind when the baby goes to sleep, and it's all going well. And suddenly the middle daughter spills her milk all over the older brother's project. I mean, we've all had moments like this. And then the mother somehow manages to gather herself. I'm not sure how she does it. So she kind of resurrects the project, gets the middle daughter ready for school again, because she's got to get changed, decides that she probably won't have the Zoom session, but okay. She somehow manages to get them in the car, take them to school, and on the way, she manages to talk about an experience of herself when something similar happened, and she had milk all over her jeans and she was laughing. And the part of that was so interesting as well is that she said, last week I had something similar and it didn't work. This week it did. I pat myself on the back. Maybe next week it will be a disaster again, but I've had one good experience. And I think that's another thing. As mothers, we don't give ourselves enough pats on the back for what we do.
I'm patting myself on the back right now.
Yeah.
Because I always need it. It's interesting because you said that, and the experiences, I'm sure that there are plenty of mothers out there where that experience of the milk dropping and having to change, and
which we all,
oh my God, what am I going to do? And you got one kid in one arm and they're like have on different socks, and you know, this one's crying and this one's like, mom. I mean, this is all real, where it becomes unglued.
That's right, unglued
at the seams. You know, and you slide in just in time for your Zoom meeting. Your hair is like the wind's been blown through it.
Yes.
And for the people around us, in order for us to really, I think, own and support and honor what happens when children are being raised, you know, for someone to show up in a Zoom meeting like that and go, okay, do you need a moment?
Yes, that's right.
Because we all can wait for you. I think it's important for those who are listening to this podcast. You might not be a mother, but there are tons of ways that you can take these principles and apply them. I think these are principles
of life.
I think they're principles of life. Each time I've talked to you, I keep seeing and hearing these principles of life.
It's exactly right.
These principles can be used. So if you're, you know, you have a colleague who's coming and you can tell that the wind is blowing her back, life is kind of blown up, which we want her to not see as something wrong. Something just happened, and it didn't happen the way you expected it, because nothing ever happens in motherhood the way you expected.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's really the gem of this. And what you just said is, you know, let's have compassion for other mothers, and let's be real with what this experience is. Let's not pretend. Let's not judge. Let's just flow with it.
Let's flow with it. I've always said in my women's leadership classes that the mothering is one of the, even if you're not a mother, mothering is one of our super skills. It's one of our, it's our superpower. It's one of them. There are a lot of things that come out of mothering that allow us to have that experience and to give it to others.
And I think what you said is so interesting, because you don't actually have to be a mother to mother people.
You don't. You really don't. That's a non-binary, I think. You don't. You don't have to be a mother, but those instincts are there. So go with the flow of them. But I mean, every time I've talked to you, I felt like, oh my goodness, we could apply this here, and we can apply this in this profession, and we can, you know, we can apply it to the things that are happening in our world now.
That's right. You know? And that's also very much part of my message. I want an understanding of what ambivalence is, that there's more than one truth at any one time, and we want to bring these together, be accepting, and use and, not or.
Yeah.
This was so wonderful.
It's very wonderful. I was just feeling like, okay, Margo, we've got to, you know, next time I'm in New York, I got to come see you or something.
Definitely.
We've got to stay connected.
That's right. No, it's wonderful. So
Fantastic.
yeah, well, why don't we can have another, I mean, there's so many things we could talk about, because there's also young mothering. It's wonderful. I mean, the use of film, that I used film as a creative means to really. I'm a psychotherapist, but I didn't use that. I used film, and film TV is a wonderful way for us to see ourselves and to identify, and it's safe because it's on the screen, and you can identify safely. And there's wonderful creative means, and I'd love to do that with you, because there was, when I wrote my PhD and my first book, and we could talk about my first book as well. It's more academic, but it's another book. It's a really good book, and I use Greek myth. It's called The Maternal Experience. It came from my PhD, but it's a great book. And I use a lot of film, and it's really wonderful. And when one can see film, theatre, TV, novel, there's so much of mothering that we can identify. Even I found it, even though it wasn't really meant to be like that. But I really find it everywhere, and I find ambivalence everywhere, and it's just fascinating.
It might be a fun idea.
I'm so happy you cleared up that piece about ambivalence, because ambivalence, at first it kind of took me aback, but now that I see what you're saying,
Yeah, I mean, we could do something just on ambivalence. I'd love to do that. And then what I want to, my aim is to have a conversation. I don't have all the answers, and of course I can't, but I want to put ambivalence as part of the maternal conversation and part of the wider conversation, and I want to have conversations. I love it.
Yeah, this was so fun.
That was an inspiring interview. Margo hit on a lot. I love the idea of mothering is a process of separating. Do we know that's true or not? And I love that she talked about this whole thing of making mistakes and repairing those mistakes. And that's the process of learning. I think the biggest thing that came out of the big aha for me was it's all about and it's not about or. It's about and being inclusive, and the experience not being shaming, but being inclusive, and that it's all good. I really loved that. So I'm encouraging you, if you've listened to this, let other young women listen to it, or young individuals listen to it who are planning to have children, and so that they can get a good insight on what mothering really is, even if we look at that as non-binary. It's amazing the concepts that she's bringing in, the concept of flow, the concept of the concept of growth and transformation. I love that. The mothering is transformation. Who would have thought? This really got me jazzed. So we want to thank you for being with us today. Women Express is always going to bring voices to the table that will make a difference for you and for your life and for the friends around you. So please, please, please follow us, subscribe, actually send this to your friends. I do. Let's all start to build a conversation around what it means to not only be a mother, but what it means to take those principles of motherhood and start applying them in our day-to-day life, because I think they do apply. Thank you for being a Women Express listener. And now, come on, women, let's get out there and let's use our voices and express. Nia, you have some great stuff for us to hear about.
Okay, but if you want to stay in touch with us, here are a few ways. First, follow us on Instagram at women_express_. And there you will find a few great things. First, if you haven't listened to our last episode with Steph Wagner, go on and scroll down in whatever platform you listen to this podcast on and give it a listen. It was a great episode about women and wealth and empowering your financial future, which why not start now? Don't do it when you're in a crisis. Figure it out before so you can be in control of your life no matter the circumstances. And we've been waiting to launch this event for quite some time, the We Lead Women's Leadership Experience. If you weren't able to attend this time, because as we're recording this, It is after the event, which happened on March 28th. But keep an eye out for more events in the future. Specifically, to get involved in our community right away, keep an eye out for our Sips and Tips bi-monthly happy hours where we'll get together as a community and chat about current topics, past episodes, and we might even have some special guests that you've seen and heard from in the past. So make sure you keep an eye out on our Instagram, again, women_express_ or listen to this podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. Be sure to download, subscribe, and leave us a review. The more you review our podcast, give it a 5-star, give it a 1-star if you so please, but give us any type of review because it will help boost us on the boards to make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to listen to Women Express. So thank you for joining us today, and we can't wait to talk to you next time.
Thank you for being with us at Women Express. Now go out there, get the job done, and tell your story. Express. Bye for now.